Hi, good evening. This is Stephen. I wanted to talk a little bit today about they say, I say. So you'll notice that there's a bunch of readings, and I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the logic of those readings. And again, if you have questions, let me know. So my idea is that we're going to move through the first half, which is basically short chapters to help you understand how to take what they say, meaning other human beings, other sources, and integrate them with what you want to say. So a good start for that, I think, and I think that the authors do a good job at this. Imagine that you're reading something. So you're reading for your research paper, or you're reading the article on Google, Is Google Making Us Stupid? The article, usually in academia, it's part of some larger conversation, and you're entering that conversation. So imagine you're at a party, you enter a conversation, and people are talking. You don't necessarily know what started the conversation, where people started their ideas, and after you leave it, the conversation will keep going. You might make a contribution to it. So what we're doing in school is to learn how to think about people who said thoughtful things, interesting things, knowledgeable things, and then we try to integrate those and then ideally contribute to the conversation, if only to say, wow, yeah, these people say this is really important, and I agree, it is really important. Or, chemistry has these benefits, and I agree with those benefits. What they say, I say, sort of emphasizes in the start, is to look at the ways we think academically. So a classic thing that we do in academics is like, well, why are you telling me this? So let's say your essay, the next essay is going to ask you to read the Nicholas Carr essay on Google, Is Google Making Us Stupid? And then the article on, it's like Smarter Than You Think, talking more about how we can integrate with technologies and machines, how we can cooperate with them so that we're smarter than an individual or a machine. So the reason I picked those two is I want you to read the Carr. Carr's very critical of Google, critical of internet, critical of online learning. He's worried about it. So there's a reason for him to be saying this. He's saying, we talk about Google being good. That's what they say. Google's great. Google has all this information. Google can read stuff, get smarter. And he's saying, but I say, and then he's talking about how, he's talking about why he thinks online reading is problematic for comprehension and for, kind of understanding how to read. So that conversation is a conversation that's longer than Carr and longer than the Smarter Than You Think article. I want you to read both of those. I want you to summarize the Carr, summarize the Smarter Than You Think, and then I want you to write a They Say, I Say essay. So you can start with, briefly looking at Carr, briefly looking at the Smarter Than You Think essay, and then you can, okay, so what do you think? Carr says this. I agree with him because, but I also see what the Smarter Than You Think article is saying, and I agree with this. So they can look at ways in which you can agree with both. Or, which is more likely because that's just how we work, you look and think, yeah, I see the conversation, but I have a different idea about this. So you might say, Carr says this about the reading. Here's why I think it makes sense what he's saying, and here's how I differ. Or, whatchamacallit says, talking about Smarter Than They Think, he's saying that we can really cooperate with machines, and he's giving these examples, and I understand that, talk about how you understand it, it makes sense. But I also think that there's a problem with our machines, how we work with them. A classic thing is we're all interested in our cell phones, and it's sort of total cliche, right, about the 21st century, that people are like this all the time. My phone, and let's see, I'll check it right now in the middle of this talk, right, because we're addicted. So you might say, phones are great, but we actually are dumber sometimes because we're on our phones all the time and we're not able to pay attention. So anyway, the first essay in the They Say, I Say is going to be read those two pieces, respond to them online with Canvas, and then write a paper. So I'm going to want you to be thoughtful about applying chapter 1, which is that template chapter, to these two pieces. You're going to be integrating the moves that academic people make, including some people say this, like the Google article. Some people say that, like the Smarter Than You Think article. I think, and then you name your point. Then as you move into the essay, you're going to talk about the two pieces, and then you're going to move into your argument. Let's say you can say, I actually agree with Carr, and talk about the reasons you agree. Use your own examples and analysis. Then the next move is you say, however, and you can be what's called a naysayer. So in any piece that you're writing, it's kind of useful to think, well, wait a minute, are there parts of my argument that I don't agree with? So whatever you're saying, you say, do the naysayer and reverse field a little bit. So you can say, I do think Google is having an effect on how we read. I think we read shorter. We read so-called across. We're clicking on things. We're going sideways. But we're not necessarily reading down slowly the way English teachers want us to read. And then you might say, the naysayer might say, but wait a minute, why is that bad? Maybe there's some good sides to how we read now and clicking across. So that's called the naysayer. So anyway, I'm going to want you to take the chapter 1, chapter 9 pieces of They Say, I Say, and be thoughtful about that while you're writing your second essay. Okay? Anyway, again, any questions, give me an email, and I hope this was useful for you. Thanks.